So iPadOS 15.5 Beta 1 has been out for over a week now, and we've been testing it ever since that day that it did release to all developers in the developer program. And we did find some new features which we didn't talk about in the first video. So without further ado, let's talk about those because honestly, they're pretty intriguing. Let's get into it. So let's get right into the features that came with iPadOS 15.5 Beta 1, because we saw some initial features that popped up when the first release came out, but now that I've had the time to play with it for about a week or so, we did find some new ones. But just to kind of reiterate everything that happened with the original update, so if you go into like a text message or something and then you open up the app drawer, you can see that the new Apple Cash button changed. So before it actually just said Apple Pay, but now it has Apple Cash. And the reason they're doing this is because Apple's trying to differentiate the Apple Cash from a different card. So Apple Pay, Apple Cash, and all these other things are going to be different cards that relate to your finances. So I think one's going to be a debit card, one's going to be related to like Apple Credit, so Apple gift cards, and then finally you're going to have the Apple Card, which is the credit card itself. So that's the first little change that we noticed. So a little icon went from Apple Pay to Apple Cash. The next thing that we actually found was inside of HomeKit. So if we go down and we go to HomeKit, if you have an Apple related device, so for instance, you see that I have my HomePod here, these are all my Hue lights that I have, so you can't really get this information from the Hue lights, but if you long press on, let's say, your HomePod and scroll all the way down into the settings section, you actually get a nice new little section over here where it says Wi-Fi network, and then it gives you the connectivity, because Apple, I guess, is thinking like, hey, these HomePods aren't placed around the house like a normal laptop would be. Normally when you have a laptop or a desktop, you're trying to put it as close as you can to the Wi-Fi router just to make sure you have the best connectivity. So Apple put in a nice little Wi-Fi bar here to let you know like, hey, put your HomePod a little bit closer if you only have one Wi-Fi bar. If you have two Wi-Fi bars, it's like, hey, think about maybe replacing this or getting a Wi-Fi extender. So I think that's why Apple put this in here. So now you can see the Wi-Fi network name as well as how many Wi-Fi bars you have with the HomePod. So this isn't the Wi-Fi bars that's related to the iPad or any other iOS or macOS devices. This is the Wi-Fi strength, signal strength from the HomePod itself. So the next interesting one has to go back with Apple's lawsuit with the App Store and Epic Games and things like that. So Apple has slowly had to kind of compromise or at least comply with some of the rules that is being governed with them. So the first thing that they added was like kind of secretly the ability to sideload applications, because again, Apple took off things like Fortnite from the App Store because Fortnite tried to get people to go to a third-party external purchaser to avoid that 30% commission that Apple makes per sale. So what they're doing now and what Apple's trying to do is giving the ability to use third-party or external purchase kind of transactional applications. So now users sometimes will get this new prompt where it says external purchases from external purchase may still exist. You cannot manage or cancel any external purchases through the App Store. For more info, contact the developer. So it's basically a way to allow third-party developers to take payment outside of the App Store kind of ecosystem so they can retain 100% of the revenue that comes in through that third-party purchase versus doing it all inside of Apple. Now again, it looks like it's not going to integrate as well. So if you have subscriptions through applications that are very easy to manage inside of the App Store, you probably won't get that same functionality if you go with a third-party purchaser. Now you probably will be supporting the developer a little bit more directly and a little bit more so than you would going from the App Store. But overall, me personally, I'm going to probably stick to App Store stuff for now just because it's very easy to manage. You know, there has to be a big incentive for me to actually purchase outside of the app. So that is what you have going on when it comes to external purchasing inside of applications with the App Store. The next one we're going to talk about is TV. So MLB baseball finally kicked off last Friday, and it's actually very, very cool. Now, I'm personally not a big baseball guy, but I did watch a little bit of Friday Night Baseball just to see what the UI was like, because overall it's actually very, very engaging. So yes, you get to watch the games, and for right now they are free, so you do not need to be an Apple TV subscriber to enjoy Friday Night Baseball. All you have to do is download the TV app, the Apple TV app, and start watching on Friday night. You do not need to be a subscriber, at least for now. It says free for a limited time, so I don't know how long that's going to be. But overall, I was a big fan of the experience when watching the actual baseball game. It just makes me excited to see what Apple can do maybe with the NFL or the NBA, because everything that you see on the screen gives you up-to-date statistics on each player, on the overall game, and things like that. So just having that maybe on the NBA side with points and like the scorecard and things like that, it's going to be awesome to see. But overall, I really like what Apple's doing from a sports perspective inside of Apple TV. I'm just hoping it extends to the NFL and the NBA and the NHL. And then some other ones that maybe you didn't notice is if you go into the App Store and you use the iWork suite, so Pages, Numbers, and Keynote, they actually got an update to 12.0. And if you guys want a video on the actual update itself, so if I type in Keynote, you'll see that it's on version 12.0. So let's click on this one. Yep, version 12.0. So some of the new changes are published directly to Apple Books from here, which is nice. Insert page numbers anywhere in the document. So I think they're just overall playing catch up to the Microsoft suite and maybe the Google Docs suite. But overall, I'm a big fan of Pages and Keynote and Numbers just as a quick, especially a free version of a productivity suite, or at least free in quotations when you buy an Apple product. But overall, I really like what they're doing over here, and leave a comment down below if you guys want to see a video kind of reviewing every single change that happened with Pages, with Numbers, and with Keynote, because I use Keynote every single day on a regular basis. And then lastly, there's no proof of it yet, but in the code there was some mention about the new Apple Classical app, because Apple a few months back bought a classical music app that literally all they did was play classical music, and now I think they're rebranding it and creating a totally separate kind of music application that's only classical music. Let's see what they charge for it. Let's see if they make it free. Who knows what Apple's going to do with it, but overall, that is what you're getting with overall changes with 15.5 Beta 1. And then in terms of performance, it's actually great. You know, there's nothing to complain about. All the apps are working correctly. Multitasking is working great. The notification is still there. You know, you got your control center, which is nice to see. So if I go like that, all good to go. Also, if you guys haven't tried out Sensama, highly recommend it if you guys need a very intuitive calendar that's free to use. It's going to be linked down in the description below. And also, obviously, the Paperlike. Got to get on that. But from a performance standpoint, like I said, everything is really good. I haven't experienced any bugs or any hiccups in the software whatsoever. I really just enjoy using it right now. And 15.5 has been extremely stable, and it did fix a lot of the battery issues we were dealing with 15.4. So if you did update from 15.4 to 15.5, the battery should be a little bit better. And if you aren't on the beta program, just update to 15.4.1 to get that battery improvement. And then that's a perfect segue into the battery conversation. So if we go in here, let's go into the battery situation, see what we're dealing with in terms of screen on time. So we're doing about 4 hours of screen on time in the last 24 hours, which is great to see. And if you go in the last 10 days, we're doing about 2 hours and 40 minutes of screen on time. And let's click on a day like this one right here, which I believe was a Monday. You can see that we used up about 50% battery and we got 3 hours and 45 minutes of screen on time. So from here, you can see that we could probably get 7 to 7.5 hours of screen on time on a single charge if I use it sparingly and use it how I'm supposed to. Because you can see Disney Plus doesn't take up too much battery. So 39% was 2 hours. LumaFusion, 23 minutes, took up 22%. So you can see that some of the more task-intensive applications like LumaFusion is going to drain the battery a lot faster. But let's go on a day like Wednesday of last week. 3 hours and 30 minutes of screen on time. You can see that we went pretty much over 100% battery on there. And why is that? It's because we went to LumaFusion and worked on LumaFusion videos that entire day. And then you have a juxtaposition with a day like Monday where we had almost 5 hours of screen on time with only a little bit over 50% of battery taken up. So I just want a little bit more consistency out of the battery life, but overall I think we are trending in that positive direction, everybody. But that is what we got in terms of what's new, the performance overall, and then finally the battery life. But let's finish up this video. See you guys there. But that is going to do for this video, everybody. If you did enjoy the video, leave a little dolphin right here, so just so I know you guys made it to the end of the video. But overall, iPadOS 15.5 is an extremely stable first beta, especially. Normally on the first betas, it's a little bit buggy. Battery life, usually it gets sacrificed, and then Apple iterates on those versions to make it ready for the public release. But overall, 15.5 has been extremely stable. There weren't too many tangible differences, just some small tweaks and quirks that Apple probably wanted to get finalized before 16.0 comes out, or it gets announced at least in June. But overall, very happy with the stability and the performance overall and the battery life. We do get some battery life uptrends when it comes to the battery performance with 15.5. And then lastly, would I recommend jumping on this? You know, if you are in the beta program, especially maybe the public developer program, I do recommend jumping on here. Just be aware that when you do get onto 15.5, you have to make sure that you update your macOS computer to the latest beta version in order for universal control to still work. If you keep macOS 12.3 in the regular version and then go with the beta version on iPadOS, universal control will no longer work anymore, so definitely keep that in mind if you are using universal control as a real way of getting work done. So keep that in mind if you are updating to the beta program on the iPad side. But that's going to do it for this video, everybody. If you did enjoy, click on one of these videos over here and you might learn something new also about the iPad, maybe about the iPhone, or maybe some accessories are in there. But that's going to do it. Until next time, peace.